Hello viewers, this is Lindah Kiranda and welcome to Tendo Teens Hub. And guys, I'm in Kampala, Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. And wow, this country is so beautiful, has natural beautiful resources. Wow, all you need is where I put on your shorts and sunglasses and you're good to go. Now today with me on the studio, I have guests, amazing therapists who are going to talk to us about autism, what what you need to know about autism. And yes, they are going to introduce themselves and tell us who they are and what they do. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for having us. My name is Grace Kadu. I'm a behavior therapist. I mainly work with children who are autistic to address the behavior concerns that they have. I'm also the founder and executive director of Society for Sustainable Transformation, in short, SST, which is an NGO, which mainly works with children who are autistic and other special needs to sensitize the public, school teachers, and also the parents.
Thank you, Linda, for having us. I'm by the name Nalukenge Eva Sheila, and I'm a speech and language therapist by profession. So I also work under SST as a speech and language therapist, but I also work in various places. For example, I'm a lecturer at Makerere University, and I work with a variety of clients, not only those ones with autism, but also with other clients who have communication difficulties, feeding difficulties, swallowing difficulties, and hearing difficulties. So thank you for having us.
So thank you and welcome to the show. And today we want to learn more about autism. But before that, I'm curious and I would like to know, why did you both choose the different fields that what you are doing right now? Why did you choose to be a behavioral therapist, and why did you choose to be a language therapist?
As you know, there's autism everywhere in the world. And in Uganda, I found out that there's a gap for a behavior therapist. So that was one of the reasons that interested me. And since I like to care and give, so I took it upon myself to become a behavior therapist to help out children who are autistic.
So what enticed me was, for example, you could go to schools, you'd find kids who will act in a way that you would not think of. And then you're like, how best can these kids be helped? So I was like, can something be done to help these kids? So that's what really gave me that urge to go on to and then acquire skills as a speech and language therapist.
So today we are going to talk about autism, and I would like you to kindly tell us, what is autism and how does one know, what are the signs and symptoms that parents can look out for so that someone can know that this child is autistic?
So basically, autism, this is a neurodevelopmental disorder which affects the difference in the brain. So you find that children who are autistic, the way their brain does things is quite different from how we do things, and we get to find that it affects the social communication skills. Then it also affects the interaction skills, and then these kids have a repetitive or restricted behaviors which are not like the other kids. So you find that it really impacts a lot, first of all, on the well-being of the child. Still, it affects the parents who live with this child. You find that even the siblings will be affected by this condition. So you find that such a condition is something that really needs to be understood, because most of the people in our society, when you talk about autism, they will not really get to know what it is. Some of them will say maybe those are mad children, yet it's not the case. These children have a medical condition which really needs to be addressed.
You asked about some of the signs and symptoms of autism. Some of the early signs are that these children will not give you eye contact. And so when you talk to them, they tend to look away. They're not looking at you. Whereas other children who are not autistic, when you call them, they can give you eye contact. Even as young children are starting out, one of the first things they do is look at you. Yeah, they can crane their necks and look at you. But autistic children don't give eye contact. Another one is when you call them by name, they seem to not hear you, like they don't respond. And then some of them are hyperactive. And then some of the hyperactive, meaning they can't sit still and keep moving on. They keep moving up and down. They seem to have so much energy with them. And then some of them have some of the repetitive movements. For example, some of them like rocking or spinning. Those are some of the symptoms of autism.
So how is autism diagnosed?
Um, when it comes to autism, there are various people in the medical profession that can diagnose autism. When a parent realizes their child is not, maybe is having some of these symptoms, they can go to a doctor, a neuropediatrician, who can diagnose. The psychiatrist can also diagnose. The psychologist can diagnose. The psychotherapist, also the therapist. We can also do assessment and then maybe refer. So those are some ways that you can get your diagnosis done.
So there's also a disorder known as Asperger's disorder. What is the difference between now autism and the Asperger's disorder?
So Asperger's disorder, this is still it is also a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects the socialization and communication. You find that these kids will have issues when it comes to communicating their needs. One will expect maybe a 3-year-old to come and request for something. Maybe they want something to drink. But now if this child has such a condition, you find that instead of asking out things, maybe they'll just grab them or they'll just throw tantrums and cry, and then you're like, what do they want? So, but before they used to classify these conditions depending on the symptoms that the child had, which as of now it has changed, because as years keep on going, we keep on changing the way we differentiate different things. Because by that time we could, for example, autism, we used to call it autism spectrum disorder because it was presenting in different types. For example, you would find one who is high functioning, and then you find another one who is low functioning. For example, they have certain skills they are good at, and then you find this one on this level whereby he can't even do anything. So with the Asperger's syndrome, there were more of the children who are mild. For example, their symptoms are not that much compared to these other ones whom they said like they had autism. But still, it is the same thing. It's just the degree at which someone has that condition. But of now, those nomenclatures were all removed. So now we all call all those disorders as autism, not just differentiating between the types. Because still, they have challenges when it comes to social communication, restrictive behaviors. So it's actually the same thing.
Thank you for clarifying that. I would also like to know, are there treatments available for autism? Any medical treatments or any form of treatments, are they available?
When it comes to treatment, early intervention is the best treatment. When I talk about early intervention, I mean we have therapists, and therapists is a group of people that we have the speech therapist, we have the behavior therapist, we have the occupational therapist, we have the, yes. So if that team comes on board with a child when you start early, then some of these challenges can be addressed. When I say addressed, for example, if a child starts behavior therapist early, for example, if one of their behavior challenge is maybe throwing tantrums, it could be because they can't communicate their needs. So when they cry, they get your attention. So now, if you try to show them that no, this is how you could ask for something, and that takes away the tantrum because now they've learned how to ask. And then they're having speech to show them how to communicate as well. So that is how you can have some of these interventions done to help autistic children.
So that means as a behavioral therapist, you don't work alone. You have to work with the other therapists, like you're working with a language therapist.
That is the best way, because a child represents, as we said before, an autistic child will have behavior challenges, will have the communication challenges. So if you leave out the other, then the other part is not addressed. So yes.
So you also would like to know what are the difficulties an autistic child has. What are some of the challenges they have?
So the common ones, for example, from the definition I gave, that these children have challenges when it comes to communication. Okay, to us, communication is easy because we don't have any impairments. So when I want something, it is something easy. I'll just go and get it, or I'll ask it, I'll say it out. But you find when it comes to some of the autistic children, some of them might be non-verbal, whereby they're unable like to talk. Then others will be verbal, but the way they will be like communicating, it will be a bit of inappropriate. For example, an example I can give is whereby these kids have issues when it comes to social boundaries. They don't know where they are supposed to stop. For example, maybe you've gone out, for him he thinks everything is his, so he will end up going to the supermarket and destroying each and everything, because for him he knows everything belongs to me. So you'll find that their communication skills and language skills are quietly impaired at that moment. So when I talk about language, I don't talk about that I'm speaking Swahili, I'm speaking about Luganda. No, this is how you, the person, you understand how others are speaking and how I understand the other things that come into. So you'll find that most of the autistic children will really delay when it comes to acquiring these skills, whereby you will find a 7-year-old kid or who has autism who is unable to speak. They are unable to request for things they want. They are unable to play appropriately like the way their age mates do. And another thing, you find that they will have challenges when it comes to the school setting. Because usually when a child is around something like 3 years, we expect them to go to the school setting. So now when they reach into the school setting, first of all, they have issues when it comes to sensory processing. When I say sensory processing, how do you process, for example, what you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you hear? So you find that with these kids, sometimes they are oversensitive or sometimes they are undersensitive. For example, if someone is oversensitive maybe to loud sounds, whenever he would hear something that is loud, they will always hold their ears because it really irritates them. Then you also find that one who is under responsive, whereby for him he's craving for that loud noise, whereby you find him on speakers, putting the speakers are really having that big volume, and you find that for him is quietly enticed with such a sound. So another challenge that they can have, for example, when it comes for the adults, as they finish school, obvious case, the society expects you to be in a certain way, whereby we know these challenges don't just go away. We just get ways of mending them such that they are appropriate to the society. But not each and everything can resolve and you go back to normal. So you find that, first of all, they will have issues when it comes like to forming relationships. For example, making friends. These are kind of people who are loners because it's hard for them to initiate making friends. Then when it comes to the love life, you find that most of the times, some of them will really, he'll reach around 35 years when has no girlfriend. Because why? He cannot initiate that, and sometimes he feels awkward to initiate himself in such something. There are quite many challenges which require something like a full day to talk about. Yeah.
So thank you. So as a language therapist, At what stage, when let's say a child is diagnosed with autism, or from which age, how do you come in? When do you come in? And how will you help them to communicate now?
So usually these signs and symptoms or red flags usually come way earlier. But usually as parents we are like, no, we will wait. He will get there. He will get there. But usually by 6 months, at least you're able to tell. For example, if you call this child, they seem not to respond to their name, because usually by 6 months, at least a child is oriented about their name. Then you find that at 9 months, their interests are quite different. For example, we know by 9 months, this is where a child is crawling, they are reaching out for things, they want to explore each and everything. But then you find for this specific child, is quite a way different. And sometimes you can even get to see the repetitive behavior, some of the repetitive behaviors, for example, spinning, staring at maybe a certain corner for something like 3 hours. The child is there staring at something. Then usually by the time they turn to 1 year, we expect them at least to be like speaking out one word, because below that they will be babbling out different things. So with such kind of a child, you find that everything is slow when it comes to speech and language development. Other things can be normal. For example, the milestones, developmental milestones, they will be normal. But when it comes to the aspect of communication, you find that things seem to be different from the norm. So by the time they turn 2.5, that's when each and everything presents out, whereby it increases, and you're like, oh, my child does not really do things like the way others do. And usually one of the concerned parents get there like, he's 3, but we can't hear any word out of him. Then they'll be like, oh, what's wrong with my son? Maybe something, maybe he has a tongue tie. And some of them will even go under to do a surgery, yet it's not the case. So usually we advise parents, once a child turns 2.5 and you're not getting any word out of them, when you look at the way they interact with others, it's quite challenging. It's better to seek for help from qualified specialists that can really intervene in fast, because early intervention is the best medicine you can ever get. Because remember, these kids are, once kids are growing, for example, from birth up to 5 years, it's like an open book whereby they are eager to learn new things. But once a child grows up, that placidity reduces, whereby it's challenging to teach someone of around something like 10 years to learn something. Okay, they will learn, but they will learn at a slower pace. Yet if he got intervention at 2.5, he will really thrive high.
Yes, you have talked about therapy, and I would like to know, is there a particular therapy that makes a big difference?
All therapy makes a big difference. Like I said, most times you can't, with autistic children, you can't find and you're doing one therapy only. Because if a child is not talking, the behaviors will be there because they can't communicate. So you find things like tantrums, you find things like beating or, head banging, things like that. Because they want to get your attention, they will do anything to get your attention. So definitely all therapies help. There's nothing like this therapy is the best more than the other one. Yeah.
All therapy is important. Okay. So you deal with different behaviors. Which are the most challenging behaviors that you have handled?
One of the most challenging behavior I've handled is toileting. Toileting, I find, is a huge challenge because, for starters, the child lives with the parents, so you need the parents to intervene. Now, if you find busy parents, and for example, you're doing therapy on a child, and you get this child to maybe sit on a toilet seat, but then the parents are not doing the same, because the children thrive on routine. So now if the routine is not maintained, it causes a big challenge. So you find a child even as early as 6 still not toileted. They cannot sit on the toilet. Or if they do sit on the toilet, then you find them doing it everywhere around the compound, or they're having, serious challenges with toileting. So for me, I find that's one of the biggest challenges, because that involves the whole team. And if one part of the team is not doing their work, then that becomes a challenge. Yes.
So, yes, please.
Then another challenging behavior that these kids have, we call it self-hurting. For example, there are those who bite themselves, then there are those who hit themselves, whereby this needs to be addressed, because remember, these are kids and you would not want them to get injured. You would not want them to get injured. So there are various challenges, because it's not only the behavior, the communication, the speech, but they have quite a number of challenges.
So, I would also like to know, what are the main facts that everyone must understand concerning autism? I know many people don't know what autism is. You have defined it, but what are the main facts so that people don't just have misconceptions about autism?
So first of all, autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder which affects communication, social skills, behavior. For example, a child will have restrictive or repetitive behavior. So another thing, it affects more of the boys than girls. For example, if it's a ratio, you'll find that it will be around 3-1. In 3 boys, you'll find 1 girl who is autistic. We also don't know why it's like that. We are still researching to find out why it's like that. And autism affects every ethnic group, whether you're a white, whether you're from Africa, whether you're a Chinese, it affects every cultural background. So it's not all about that it's only this family. No, you can get a child who has autism at any moment. So you'll find that the known cause up to now, we can't say that this is the main cause. Whether when you do this, you'll have a child who is autistic, but we think of some contributing factors. For example, the environmental factors that can contribute. For example, some usually the industrial wastes, the way we eat, the way the things in our environment sometimes might contribute, the pollution in the environment. So those are some of the things we can really. And another thing, children with autism, they have potential like any other child. These kids were gifted by God, in that it is us, the society, which really don't understand the capability of these kids, because we've seen these people are able like to achieve greater and greater things. For example, they are able to study from schools until universities, get PhDs in various fields. And one thing I know about autistic children, these are perfectionists. When it comes to something that they are interested in, they will do that work 100%, which you can't do. For example, if he's interested in computers, just know this is a computer wizard, whereby he doesn't need a calculator to do those mathematical calculations, because that's where all his efforts are. If he's a painter, just know he will produce out the best paintings you've ever seen. So you'll find that as parents, we really need to give these children a chance, such that we are able to explore their capabilities. Because having autism does not hinder you to learn other stuffs. He can learn those stuffs, but when he's given the right approaches.
Maybe if I can add on, I know most parents hide their children inside their houses. So one of the things I can urge parents to do is that These children, when given opportunity, they will surprise you. That's why there are therapists helping out. And when this child is helped, all these other issues that you are hiding become non-existent because they have potential. It's like if you're given a chance to do something that someone knows you can do, then that helps you. So these children, if you hide them in their houses, for how long are you going to hide them? Besides, they have to live in society. Now, when you look at Lionel Messi, he is autistic. Yes, he is autistic. But look at the potential. Yes, look at what he's doing. So if parents could look to him and say, okay, this is Lionel Messi, he's autistic, but this is what he's capable of doing. So each child has potential to do something and live in society.
Okay, just a few questions remaining. Can you kindly share some of your success stories?
Maybe if I can share one, is that usually as a behavior therapist, I start from the home environment. The reason being, this is where the child has grown up, this is where the child is most comfortable, and this is where most behaviors are going to come out. So we address some of these behavior issues from home. This is where we involve the family as well, so that we are doing the same thing. We are all following the same routine. And then once the success comes when the child transitions to a school, not a special needs school, but they've transitioned to, yes, to a normal school. And for me, that one gives me joy to see because they also learn from the other children. For example, if they were not socializing, maybe you could start seeing them clapping. Yeah, when other children are clapping, then they'll clap. I have one client, he would go to the playground and wants to be pushed to the swing. But nowadays, he's trying to communicate. He's nonverbal, but maybe he will hold the hand of the other child and like put it at the back, like, can you please? Yes. So yeah.
So usually one of my greatest joy in when it comes to these therapy things that we do is seeing when you've moved a journey from point zero and you see you've really moved further steps from how you found this child. For example, you find those who can't communicate, and it reaches a time whereby this is a kind of a child who comes to you and seeks your attention to communicate, who used to be in the corner, but now this is someone who really wants to engage someone. And that really gives me joy to see that I've really put in much effort to see that I'm seeing now a different person. And that keeps me going. Whenever I'm like down, I'm like, oh, I can't do this. And I see something like that, I'm like, I should push further, and then push further.
Wow, that is an amazing, amazing story. Now, kindly give us your last words. What is your advice to parents, to caregivers, to teachers? What is your word of encouragement?
One word of encouragement would be to always seek help. When it comes to teachers, some parents will always take their children to school, not knowing that their children is having this condition, and most parents are in denial. Yes. So seeking help will help. That's one advice I'd give to parents, seeking help, the right help. Once you get the help, it takes a load off you. And for teachers, if they're trained, they can be able to identify some of this, that this child has this particular challenge, and who do we contact? So advice would be to train teachers on special needs and how to identify it, and for caregivers to be shown how to help these children because they all have potential to succeed.
So to all parents out there who have children with special needs, one of the major thing is that first of all, we have to accept that this is what God gave us and we can't change it. So we have to appreciate what these kids can do. A little they can do can really make a difference in someone's life. So it's better for us parents to be empowered. By not hiding our kids, we should be proud of the kids we have, whereby you can even bring them out and you move out with your child, because yeah, he's your child and you're proud of that child irrespective of what challenge he has. And another thing I'll also emphasize, it is good to really seek for intervention, because the earlier you go, the better it will what. And please, parents, it's good also to talk about what your kids are having, because you never know. Maybe also someone else will be passing through the same situation you're passing through. So by sharing such information, you're giving courage to that person that, oh, I think also my child can do it, because most of the parents have successful stories of how they are moved a journey from when the child was young to when a child is an adult. So it's better to share such experiences, because they empower us to keep on moving forward.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. It's an interesting topic. We have learned about autism, how autism should be managed, and we appreciate you so much for coming and honoring our invitation. And may the Lord bless you as you go forth and do what He has called you to do. I would like you to share your contacts, your social media handles, your phone numbers. How can someone who is watching reach out to you for consultation or advice?
If I can give out my mobile number, it's 256 plus 256 771 408 235. And the company name is Society for Sustainable Transformation. You can find us on Facebook.
So my phone number is +256 771 200 140. Then you can also reach me on my email, which is sheilamorgan@gmail.com, or you can reach me at my Twitter handle, which is Sheila Morgan. Yes.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And this is what we had for you today. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that like button. And thank you so much. Until next time.